Hello, 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 everyone. It is evening here in the Midwest. I hope wherever you are and whenever you are watching this that you are doing well. I am so excited to be with you. My name is Jackie Boyd. I am the founder and owner of the Care Plan based here in Chicago, but we work with folks around the country to navigate health and aging issues for yourself or for a loved one. It is so wonderful to be back with you. And tonight we're talking about Caregiver Q&A. So this is going to be a chance to get your questions answered, and whether you're a caregiver or a care recipient, I want to be sure to answer the questions that you might have about how to navigate this time, what resources are available, and specifically I'm going to talk a lot tonight about how to care for yourselves while caring for others or while receiving care, because that's truly where it starts. It starts with you. You are the foundation of whatever is going to happen for your loved one or for yourself. So when we're thinking about the caregiving journey, it's almost impossible to prepare emotionally for how you will be affected and what the relationship will look like with your loved one, which is part of why the care of yourself is so important. So if I take this from the perspective of being a caregiver or approaching that journey and how to take care of yourself, some of it is making sure that you have a deep understanding of what keeps you well. And it's not the fluffy stuff. It's not, oh, I need to eat better. Oh, I need to do this. It's not the need to, it's what is achievable for you, right? And what is top priority. So for example, if you're someone who needs a little time to yourself every day and you're approaching this caregiving journey, if giving up that time alone, if you need an hour to yourself every day, if giving up that time alone is going to mean you have less capacity, don't do it. You want to build in that time for yourself and protect that time for yourself. If you're somebody who exercises every morning and that's part of how you stay well in your life, don't give that up. The caregiving pace can be fast. It can feel kind of chaotic, but also it's often long. It's often a long time journey. And so none of us can be a great caregiver to someone else if we don't have a deep rooting and grounding in a few things that keep us well. Hi, I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for joining. I'm Jackie. We're talking about caregiver questions and answers. So if you have specific questions, please do ask away. I want to be sure that what I offer tonight is helpful and of use. And we're starting with how do you really prepare for this journey? How do you care for yourself in it? I've been a caregiver for others for 20 years. And over the last, let's say 4 or 5 years, I had been a caregiver for my mom as well. And even with all of the knowledge that I had, it still took an emotional toll because I was grieving. And that's just the reality of it. Some days when you're working with someone that you love, you see the changes. And there's joy in caregiving too. There's a lot of joy. And there's also an emotional piece that not everybody talks about, right? So it's really important. I found it was important to, even when I didn't feel like doing the things that made me okay and a better human in the world, I needed to push myself to do them, to be sure that I was still getting time with my friends, that I was getting out of the house, that I was able to engage in work, that I had my spiritual life. I cannot explain to you how important it is to care for yourself, make sure you still have room for you in your life in order to show up for somebody else. So that's just out of the gate. There is no caregiving relationship if you are not well. And everything else I'm going to talk tonight is built on that. So the other thing that you can do to prepare or be as well as possible as a caregiver is to educate yourself. And I wish that we didn't have to do this. I wish that, there was more of a movement in this country to prepare us all for what I call the fourth quarter of life, right? When we're going to need some additional support, when we may be vulnerable, when our bodies or minds may be changing or declining. I think most people feel surprised by it or disappointed or heartbroken. And we don't have the resources to just say, how do I do this? How do I care for someone else? And for many of us, we might have seen our parents caregive for their parents, or people in community be a caregiver for others, or checking in on neighbors or friends. But truly, caregiving is a job. It is a job, and there are specific duties and responsibilities, right? If you're a family caregiver, you are probably helping with everything from coordinating and attending medical appointments, filling pill boxes, monitoring food and fluid intake, making sure that your loved one is showering regularly and changing their clothes and occupied socially. There are so many things that a caregiver does. And typically I break it down into a few areas. You're monitoring personal care and making sure that those activities of daily living, like showering, grooming, using the restroom safely and appropriately, that's all part of personal care. So most caregivers are at least conscious of that or trying to pay attention to that. And then you have the environment. Is the home appropriate? Does my loved one need to be in a different location? And goodness, how do I find that location? How do I know what they'll qualify for? How are we going to pay for it? Is the home clean, safe? Are there fall hazards? A big reason why people go to the emergency room is because of falls. So a caregiver, as part of this job description that nobody's training us on, is responsible for personal care, for the environment, also for food and fluid intake and nutrition, right? Paying attention to, is my loved one eating? Have they dropped 30 pounds in the last couple months? How are they feeling? How are they doing? Are they thirsty? Are they getting enough fluids? And something I learned early in my career, which has stuck with me and is always still kind of a surprise, is that we lose some of our thirst instinct as we age. We lose that instinct to know when we need water or when we need to be hydrated. So if your loved one doesn't like to drink water, as many people don't that I've worked with, it's not personal. It is not them being difficult. It is just that their body is not telling them always, okay, you need to hydrate. So personal care, the home environment, nutrition. There's also then things like companionship and socialization, right? What is your loved one's needs around companionship and socialization? How are they going to get met? Are they sitting in front of a TV all day? Are they part of an activity program? So there's always that to consider too. And then for most of us, outside of personal care, the home environment, nutrition, and companionship and socialization, there's also the medical aspects, right? So understanding what are the conditions that my loved one has, how can I manage those conditions or keep my loved one as safe as possible and out of the hospital, and what do I need to do? What are all the elements? And this is really where educating yourself is so important, because I can't sit here, unfortunately, and tell you about all of the ways to manage every single condition. If you have those questions, you can reach out to us, and if we're not the right resource, I'll find it for you. But the reality is that, what it looks like for someone to age with Parkinson's is different than congestive heart failure. That is different than long-term diabetes, which is different than pancreatic cancer. For every diagnosis, there are typically different symptoms, different treatments, different courses of action that you can take. So educating yourself about the options and about how to best do this care for your loved one's conditions, it helps equip you and helps you feel a little bit more confident that you know what you're doing. The doctor, your primary care physician, your medical team can and should be really in your corner on this. You should ask all of the questions that you have. You should ask for resources. But you might also want to think about getting other types of education or joining something like a caregiver support group. Because what I've found is that our medical system is very heavily concerned about the medical aspects, right? But we don't always get that more comprehensive knowledge about emotional wellness or housing or how to know when it's time for palliative or home health or hospice care. So getting yourself educated, connecting with other caregivers or other experts, and you all who have followed me for a long time know I always say, never go to the doctor alone. Take a friend with you, take an advocate with you. And part of the reason for that is sometimes the doctors might not bring up what's top of mind for you. And when you get in front of that doctor, you might forget. I've had clients who, had a fall and went to the hospital, and maybe they hadn't had home health in 3 years and they had Medicare coverage. Well, you can get home health services at home, which is a nurse or a physical therapist, even sometimes an occupational therapist or a speech therapist, to help strengthen your loved one and provide them tips and resources and exercises for how to maintain that independence. So that's just an example where, sometimes the education is something we get from community. Sometimes it's from your doctor. Sometimes it's from your own research. So I just encourage you to, if you're a caregiver, really yourself to feel more confident in this new job that you have that maybe you didn't receive any training for. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. If you have questions about caregiving, please do put them in the chat. I will be happy doing so for a friend, a family member, a partner, someone that you have previous history with. That someone probably views themselves either as your equal or as someone what most folks don't understand. Only a third of Americans have their advanced directives done. It's a conversation we should all be having, but people are resistant to it. So rolling with resistance means drop seeds, drop hints. Don't try to tell the other person what to do. We are each individuals, and typically with education and with context, we will make the right decision for ourselves in our time. So if you get resistance from your loved one, I can handle things just fine, right? Because the majority of us are pretty private about our money and our business. But if you talk with that person and you put it a different way, or you say, hey, I'd love to talk with you about how you're managing your mail and your bills. How's it going? What's working, what's not? That's a different conversation than mom or dad, I need to get on your accounts. I need to start paying your bills. You're not able to do it yourself anymore, right? You feel that difference? Understand, accept it a little bit better, or where we can have a real conversation instead of me talking at them. Hi, Carlin. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Caregiver Q&A. If you have questions, just let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. One of the other things that I think caregivers should really be aware of is what is actually important. Because there are so many priorities that come up when you're caregiving, right? There's all the medical pieces, there's the day-to-day life, there's the financial elements, there's the emotional elements. But what I have really been encouraging folks to do, especially these last couple years, is think about the quality of the time you spend together, not just the tasks that need to be done. So things like if you go over to your loved one's place and you have a list of things you need to do, is fun on that list? Is watching a movie together, eating dinner, laughing, talking about anything but what's happening for them medically or physically? Is there time for fun and lightness and the truth of why you're in relationship with that person in the first place? Is that present in the caregiving relationship? Because a lot of times we can get bogged down by the details, bogged down by all the logistics. But I promise you, at the end of someone's life, those are not the things that you're going to want to remember and focus on. You're going to want to remember those hugs, those laughs, those tears that you shared together, those private moments. And those are really part of my favorite and most treasured experiences as a caregiver is the small moments. It's the moments where they're telling you a story that maybe they haven't told anyone ever. It's the moments where, you're brushing someone's hair and they just say, thank you. Thank you, that feels so good. It's the moments where unexpectedly you find just the right words or the right moment to pause and be silent together. The important things will always be the important things. So just remember to make time for those pieces. One of the things that I often see especially in spousal or partner relationships, is the falling away of the romance. And I think that's really important to folks, right? That's just an example of if you used to have a date night every week. Just because you're in a caregiving relationship doesn't mean you should let that date night go. If you would celebrate your anniversary in a certain way, or if you would, do something nice for your partner, buy them flowers, get them chocolates, do something sweet, keep the sweetness going. Those are the memories that you're going to want to have. You don't want all your memories to be about being at somebody's bedside or at doctor's appointments or in the ER. You want positive, sweet memories to hold on to and to build together. And I want to say hi to other folks who've joined the room. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Jackie, and I'm just talking about caregiving in tonight's Caregiver Q&A. So if you have questions, please do put them in the chat. Some of the things I've talked about so far are the importance of maintaining a part of your life for you and making sure that you're not going to be able to do everything that you used to do for yourself. But even when it feels like a struggle, make sure that you're doing some things that keep you well, right? When I was caregiving for my mom, I had to do meditation. I didn't get to it every day, but I tried to make it a regular practice because it helped with my blood pressure and with my pacing and with how the day went, right? So caring for yourself is incredibly important while you're caregiving for other folks. The other piece I mentioned is education, getting educated about what the conditions are your loved one's living with, what the resources are in the area, right? If you want to talk to a care navigator, reach out to us. If you have a friend who's a nurse or a social worker or has been down this road with a loved one before, ask all the questions you need. Talk to your medical team, ask all the questions, because people don't always offer it up. But you'll find, this is one of my favorite parts about being a caregiver too, is that you'll find that once you start sharing your experiences, everybody has gone through it. Everybody has gone through it in some way, shape, or form, or they're thinking about when they do go through their caregiving journey. So open up the conversation, ask questions, be that person to put it out there so that you can get some more insights, some support, some resources, and the confidence to feel like, all right, it's going to be okay. I think another point that I would bring up about being a caregiver is there is no perfect caregiver. You are the perfect caregiver for your loved one. You are. Because like I just said about making sure that there's fun and sweetness and good memories, that's what your loved one cares about. They might be worried about, their medical condition. They might be afraid of what it means to be chronically ill or nervous about the stage of life that they're in. But it's that sweetness and that connection that people really care about. So just make sure that you're investing in yourself and your loved one in that way to have those fun and quiet and meaningful moments. The other thing that I brought up earlier was roll with resistance, which again means it's okay. It's okay if your loved one doesn't think you have all the best ideas or says no. Give it time, come back around to it in a different way. So those are just some of the strategies and tips I wanted to share. If anybody has questions, let me know. One other thing I will talk about is planning ahead, because this is a piece, and planning in general, right? Because you might be in a situation where you see your loved one's health changing or they're aging, and you think to yourself, okay, I guess I'll just have to be ready when I'm ready. That's not the case. You can, but you can also start to get some of this information ahead of time. Honestly, when I started my business, I really wanted it to be a place for planning for care, and not planning for when you're 70, 80, 90, but for folks in their 40s and 50s and 60s to plan ahead for what you want your life to look like through end of life. Most people weren't thinking that way. So now we do that, but we also do a lot of care navigation and one-on-one more immediate support. But I see the ways that we increase our stress by not planning, right? Think about your workday. When you put your to-do list together the day before, you take a look at your calendar, you don't have any emails that you have to answer, you've, checked all your voicemails, responded to all your texts, the next day feels less stressful because you know what's coming and you're prepared for it. The same can be true with caregiving. It truly can. You can't accommodate for every situation, but you can figure out ahead of time, what hospital would we go to? Do we have a good medical team in place? What caregiving agency would we trust? What rehab facility or long-term care facility should my loved one go into when we need to? Can we have a top 3 list? All of that is research you can do ahead of time before you're actually in a crisis state. If you're not sure, if you want to shorthand that a little bit, reach out and we will help you. But just know that you can put some plans in place ahead of time. You don't have to just wait for the other shoe to drop. The way that I think about this, both for my own health journey and for the people I work with, is what has your life looked like up to this point? What are the conditions that maybe run in your family or that you've already dealt with? What's your expected health trajectory, right? And what are the things that you're probably going to need? So you can think through all those things. You can take a look at what the financial resources are for your loved one and have a sense of, okay, are we talking about Medicaid-based care? Are we talking about having a nest egg and trying to invest it and make sure that it grows over time for these longer term needs? Are we in a very blessed position to have a lot of financial resources and sort of have our pick of what's available in the area? These are things that you don't need to wait on. So plan, plan, plan. And the other piece I would suggest is, in terms of planning, is when you are in crisis, don't push off the opportunity to talk with the other people on your team, if there are other people in your loved one's life, to figure out, what are we going to do now? You will save yourself so much time and stress by having those conversations as a support system or as a family. Because I tell you, if you make a decision as the power of attorney, or if you go in one direction, then you're going to have to explain to your whole family or your whole support system why you made that decision, why they weren't involved. There's going to be hurt feelings, and I just want you to avoid that. So whenever possible, plan ahead, plan during, communicate with all parties involved, and understand that people are typically not their best at this stage of life. And that's just real talk. There are sometimes in this work, I am blessed to work with folks who are just very level-headed and everybody on the team is on the same page. My dad's family is like that. I don't know how, but they are just all cool as a cucumber, very caring and compassionate, but they don't argue and they don't fight, and they sort of really actually make decisions collectively. And there's 4 kids. I've never seen that in a family where everybody just gets on the same page pretty quickly. More often than not, people are upset, nervous, angry, stressed out that their loved one's health is changing. and they want to be able to do something about it. And so there's a lot of strong opinions and people disagreeing and people grieving and feeling upset. And so, the planning is really important to be sure everybody has a voice, everybody has a seat at the table, and you can actually come to decisions as a group instead of, feeling hurt or upset that folks weren't involved. So I hope some of that is helpful. As you know, we at the Care Plan are here for you. If you have questions, if you would like to plan, if you're having an emergency or your loved one is not doing well and you want to get ahead of it or you want to talk through your options, that's exactly what we're here for. So do not hesitate. Reach out to us. You can reach me at Jacqueline at the-care-plan.com. You can call at 877-6-WE-PLAN. And we have a few things coming up that I'm excited to share with you. Starting December 6th, we're going to be doing regular Instagram Lives again. It has been such a long time. Through the pandemic, we would do weekly Instagram Lives, in part to provide comfort and resources, and in part just to connect with our beloved community. But we took a little bit of a break. I needed to while I was doing caregiving for my family member. But we're back, and we're going to have a series called Get Cozy with the Care Plan, where we'll talk about different elements of care and how to be well together. So that'll run from December, I believe, through February, every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Central. I'll see you here. Invite a friend, join, chat with me, ask questions, tell us what's going on with you. It's just a time for conversation and connection. So I can't wait to see you there. And we also have Comparing Notes, which is our monthly space for peer leadership and skill building for LGBTQ plus folks or Black and Brown leaders. So that space is really cool. And I have to tell you, it's at 6 o'clock on the second Wednesday of every month, 6 o'clock Central. And no matter how long of a day I've had, I always leave feeling better. I always leave feeling seen and supported and encouraged just by how brilliant all of you are. So if you haven't had a chance to join Comparing Notes yet, our December topic is goal setting for 2023. So if you have a dream, if you are in leadership now, if you're a manager, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you're an artist, join us at Comparing Notes to meet other really amazing folks from different industries, get new ideas and resources, network, and just build your confidence in what you're trying to do. So thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful being with you tonight. And I hope wherever you are and however you are, that life is being kind to you. All right. Bye-bye and take good care. And we're going to try to close this out not too awkwardly.